He was respected, powerful, and admired by everyone who worked for him. A black CEO who built his success from nothing, known for his kindness and calm. But one ordinary evening, his life took a turn no amount of money or status could protect him from. A broken-down car, an empty road, and a stranger's voice filled with suspicion, then fear. Within moments, everything changed. What really happened that night? And why did a single act of prejudice rewrite both of their lives forever? Marcus Ellison had everything people said defined success. A self-made black CEO, owner of a small but thriving tech company, and a father who still made time for Sunday breakfasts with his daughter. His mornings started with coffee and jazz. His evenings often ended in quiet drives home, windows down, city lights reflecting off his car. To anyone watching, he was proof that hard work could overcome anything. But that night, success didn't matter. When his car sputtered to a stop on a lonely highway just past midnight, Marcus thought it was just bad luck. He didn't know someone else had already noticed his stalled car and that their assumptions would soon turn a routine breakdown into something far darker. Marcus stepped out of his car, the night air heavy with silence. The engine had died completely. He tried calling for roadside assistance, but the signal flickered in and out. Just a few miles outside town, the world suddenly felt far away. Empty fields, no headlights, no sound but the hum of insects. He leaned against the car, trying to stay calm. Then faint in the distance came the crunch of gravel, tires rolling slowly closer. Relief first. Maybe help had arrived. But as the car pulled up, the headlights didn't flicker off. They stayed fixed on him, blinding white beams swallowing his outline. A man stepped out, white, middle-aged, in a grease-stained uniform, the logo of a small repair shop stitched to his chest. "The mechanic. Need help?" he asked flatly. His tone wasn't cruel, but it wasn't warm either. Marcus nodded, explaining what had happened, his voice steady but cautious. The man stared a moment longer than necessary. His eyes flicked from Marcus's tailored suit to his dark skin, then to the expensive car beside him. The silence between them grew thick, almost visible. "I just need a jump," Marcus said, forcing a polite smile. The mechanic hesitated, glancing around as if expecting someone else to appear. "Are you sure this is your car?" he finally asked. The question hit harder than the cold night air. Marcus laughed softly, thinking it was a joke, but the mechanic didn't laugh back. His hand hovered near his phone. Minutes felt like hours as Marcus tried to explain. His company, his ID, and the reason he was there. The mechanic barely listened. He circled the car slowly, checking the plates and the interior, his suspicion louder than any words. Then came the sound Marcus dreaded most, the mechanic muttering into his phone. "Yeah, I think we got a situation here." Marcus's stomach dropped. The flashing blue lights appeared before he could even process what was happening. The mechanic stepped back, arms folded as if distancing himself from whatever was about to unfold. Two officers approached, their flashlights cutting through the dark. One hand hovered near a holster. "Sir, step away from the vehicle." Marcus tried to speak, tried to explain again, but his voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. He'd done everything right, lived every rule, earned every bit of his peace, and yet here he was, spotlighted like a suspect in his success. The world blurred into noise, commands, and questions that didn't make sense. As one officer reached for his wrist, Marcus stumbled, his leg giving out. "Please," he said quietly, "don't hurt me. I can't walk." For a second, even the night seemed to pause. The mechanic looked on, his expression shifting, confusion, then guilt, but he said nothing. The officers didn't lower their hands. That moment, frozen between fear and disbelief, was when everything changed. The world around Marcus dissolved into chaos. Flashlights sliced across his face, blinding him as voices shouted overlapping commands. "Hands up! Get down! Don't move!" His leg buckled again, sending him collapsing onto the cold pavement. Pain shot up his side, but the fear numbed everything else. He tried to explain, tried to shout that he couldn't stand, but every word was drowned out by the sound of authority that refused to listen. The mechanic stepped forward, words forming on his lips, but he froze when one officer turned sharply toward him. "Back off," the officer barked. The man's courage faltered. He stepped back again, retreating into the shadows, guilt written across his face. Marcus lifted his trembling hands as high as he could manage from the ground. His voice cracked. "Please! I can't walk!" His tone wasn't defiance. It was desperation. But to the officers, it sounded like resistance. One of them grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. The other reached for his taser. Sparks lit the darkness like a cruel reminder of how fragile dignity could be. And then silence. For a brief second, no one moved. The mechanic's eyes locked with Marcus's. Something inside him shifted. He saw not a suspect, not a threat, but a man, terrified and broken under the weight of a system that refused to see him. "Stop!" the mechanic shouted suddenly, his voice cracking through the chaos. "He's telling the truth. He can't walk!" The words hung in the air like an electric charge. The officers hesitated, glancing at each other. The tension broke, but the damage had already occurred. Marcus lay there, gasping, eyes glistening not just with fear but with disbelief that it took a stranger's mercy to see his humanity. In that fragile silence, one truth echoed louder than the sirens. Success, education, respect, none of it shielded him from suspicion. And as the flashing lights painted the road blue and red, Marcus realized this night would not just define him. It would expose something far bigger than himself. Marcus didn't sleep that night. Even after the police left and the road returned to silence, his heartbeat refused to slow. The mechanic helped him back into his car, his hands shaking as he apologized over and over. But apologies couldn't erase the image. The lights, the shouting, the way humanity disappeared the moment judgment took its place. In the days that followed, Marcus kept replaying the scene in his mind. The questions, the disbelief, the helplessness. He'd spent his life proving himself, climbing every rung, believing that success could protect him. But that night shattered the illusion. It wasn't about status. It wasn't about who he was. It was about what they saw when they looked at him, and what they refused to see. The mechanic came to visit a week later, unable to shake the guilt. He told Marcus that something changed in him that night, that he'd never look at another man the same way again. For Marcus, it was bittersweet. Change had come, but only through pain that shouldn't have been necessary. He went back to work eventually, but a quiet heaviness lingered. Every handshake, every boardroom smile carried a question. Would they have believed him either? And as he looked out from his office window one evening, city lights flickering below, he realized his story wasn't just his own. It was a reflection of something much deeper, a system that still decides who is seen as human and who is seen as a threat. He survived that night, but how many others don't? How many more stories will it take before the world finally understands that equality isn't a promise we inherit? It's a choice we make every single day?